This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
What's up, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm your host, Alex Golden, and joining me is my co-host, Michael J. Facci. Facci, today we are on episode 4 of our 5-part series looking at each position for the free agents.
That we are. I thought it was fun getting into the first 3 positions. A mixed bag. Some names good. Others listened to the episode and labeled some as gross. But that could happen. Those are the opinions that we want. It's not all, hey, what we say goes. It's like, weigh in on this. This is just like, you could take it from different angles between what these players could make, what their fit is. The rankings could be all over the place, but a fun exercise nonetheless.
All right, Facci. So today we're going to be talking about the power forwards. And I will tell you what, I thought the small forwards were really gross. I hated the list of power forwards, and I think part of the reason why I hated it because I feel like there are so many that are unrealistic because the Pacers already are pretty set at power forward with Pascal Siakam, with Obi Toppin, and then their third string power forward, I think you would have to say, is Johnny Furphy. Now, he's clearly out with a torn ACL. We don't know when he's going to come back, so it's like, is there even a need for a power forward?
That's where I'm at is like you could really make the argument that like power forward is just not the spot. There's other guys that you could probably slide into a power forward spot already on the roster, but it is something that we are going to discuss. And I do think that there's a couple names worth bringing up, but I don't think either of us would be disappointed if none of them were signed. I think that is something that I'd still sleep like a baby.
Yeah, honestly, like for this list, I kind of went after players that I felt could be multi-positional. That was my whole thinking behind this. Could they play the 3? Could they play the 5 as well as the 4? And does that make sense to kind of have that versatile positionality? I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but if they could have that versatility, you know what I'm trying to say. So, anyway, before I just start saying random things and making up words, let's get into our list. So who do you have at number 5 for your power forwards?
At number 5, I think he's going to be just a minimum player. I love him coming out of college. I think his role has dwindled each of the last few years. That's Jeremy Sochan. Sochan, I think, is someone that is versatile, can play numerous positions. I do think that like he was an integral part of what the Spurs were doing when they were just not good at all. And as they got better and better and brought in more talent, you saw his role just become lesser and lesser. He's currently on the Knicks, not really playing much at all. Definitely not someone who's, that they're counting on. But Jeremy Sochan is someone who is still young, can play multiple positions, brings a little bit of everything to the table. I don't know necessarily what he's like great at, but I do think that a player like that on a minimum contract is someone that Indiana shouldn't be afraid to roll the dice on and maybe even get the most out of.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. And you also got to bring up the fact that this is an NBA champion. I mean, this guy brings
no matter what. Good situation. Get in a ring. Put in your size for it right now because it's coming in the mail.
He's a champion one way or the other, whether it's with the Spurs or the Knicks. We're recording this after Game 3, so we have no idea what took place last night on Wednesday night for Game 4. But Jeremy Sochan is clearly with the Knicks right now, but was with the Spurs earlier before he was cut. Honestly, I think it's a good pick. I honestly did not have him on my list just because I don't know. There's just something about him that's missing, but go back to that 2022 draft, he was one of the more coveted players because of his defensive efforts.
You and I both liked him. It felt like someone that was just like, oh, man, I don't know. I don't know if the Pacers can get him or I don't think it's going to work out. I think it was, you didn't want to reach too far and be able to take him because that was the same draft as Mathurin, I believe. So it's just like, it didn't make sense to take him at 6. But I felt like he was someone that I remember when we were doing our analysis, before the draft, he was someone that we were talking about, and I was very interested. I see him. That's the type of guy that I go, he's better than what his numbers are. This is the type of guy that if he had a bigger role, you put him on a team that he can play 15, 20 minutes, he's going to deliver. He's going to play hard, and I would not hate it one bit if he was brought into Indiana on a minimum contract, just a prove-it type of deal where if it doesn't work out, hey, pack his bags.
All right, Facci, I'll move over to my number 5, and I think this is kind of where we're going in the flyer category here, looking at players that could potentially make some sense. And you know me, I can't stay away from the New Orleans Pelicans. I am obsessed with the Pelicans right now because I feel like they've got a lot of interesting players that I would like to see on the Pacers. And the player I'm looking at As someone I actually mentioned during, I think it was during our trade deadline time when we were looking at maybe an Eve Misi as someone they can go after. This is a player
Mhm.
that's their power forward who's 6'10", Carlo Matkovic. And the reason why people have no idea who he is because he doesn't
Not
play
on
a
my
whole
radar.
lot. But he
Yeah.
played 62 games this year, Foch, shot 60% from the field, 42.2% from three, and 73.2% from the free throw line. He is athletic. He likes to, dive into the short roll with the pick and roll. He can be a pick and pop kind of guy. He was like number 3, I believe, in dunks for the Pelicans last year when researching
Interesting.
him. So, he's a decent weak side rim protector, can switch on the multiple positions. Like, this is somebody you kind of take a flyer on that I think could make a difference. So, if you're looking for someone to kind of give a flyer to, there's ways I could see him playing the 5 as well because he does have the size. But last thing I'll say on him, he's Croatian and
Hmm.
friends with Ivica Zubac.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Hey, well, let's see how much pull Zubats has. To be able to bring in, a
I
fellow
think he's got a lot
Croatian
of pull
friend.
right now.
Right, he's definitely has some pull. But I think for Carlo, I'm looking at stats right now, and yeah, I mean, look, I'm gonna be honest, I'm not too focused on the end of the bench for New Orleans, but this is someone that is better than I thought. Like to average almost 8 and 5 as a rookie, a block per game, shoot 57% from the field, very solid. You reduce his role, he's still giving you about 6 and 4 on a good shooting percentage. So yeah, that's someone that those are the type of guys that you could get somewhat excited about on a minimum type of contract. I'm sorry, but you could bring back, James Wiseman, 3 times. The 3rd time, I'm not excited, all right? 2nd time, there's a little bit of buzz. I don't wanna see a 4th, okay? So, I just think that in this scenario, yeah, for Carlo, interesting. Wasn't on my radar, but I don't hate it one bit.
Yeah, and
So
maybe I'm over exaggerating their friendship. They're both Croatian. I think they were
they
more
could
just
just be from
like,
the same country, yeah.
well,
Doesn't mean
there was
everybody
a
knows everybody, but if you're in the NBA, it's probably a little bit of a smaller pool of Croatians in the NBA, I would imagine.
what I will say is there was one article that I read where it said they were like friends, and then I've read a couple more other articles as I'm talking just to pull up some things, and it's like there's no confirmed evidence that they're actual friends, but they did play against each other quite a bit in Croatia. So that
It's funny because what that reminds me of is when someone goes, to me, "Are you related to so and so?" And I'm like, "Is it because he has red hair?" And they're like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" And it's like, "Because I could see where you're getting at." Like, it's like one of those where you just kinda lump people together because, hey, they're from the same area or this or that, but maybe they do know each other, but I honestly, I don't hate it one bit.
yeah, I don't either. So all right, let's move on to your number 4.
Number 4 on my list is someone that is versatile. He could play the 4, he could play the 5, and I know someone who's a big fan of him. It's Rick Carlisle, all right? And it's Precious Achiuwa, all right?
Oh,
So,
okay.
for Precious, look, I always remember that when he was really egging the Knicks to play Precious, but Precious Achiuwa, like, no one probably realized it, but he just had a career year. Is part of that playing on the Sacramento Kings? Probably, but he averaged 10 points per game, about 7 boards, about an assist and a half, but who really cares about that? Shot about 53% from the field. This is someone that has always been a solid rebounder in this league, averaging 6 boards per game for his career, and most of the time he's playing around 20 minutes. So as a backup center, like no, he's not really going to be this like stretch big by any chance, but he did quietly make 27 threes. It's not something you want to count on, but he has like some capabilities, but I'm not going to over exaggerate on it. I don't really need Precious Achua shooting threes. I need him to rebound, and I think that's there. You could do a lot worse than Precious Achua, and he's been a minimum guy. He's one of those players that even coming off of a career season, I still think is just kind of locked into being a minimum contract player. But he's got a lot of experience, and I definitely think it's not a bad move as a backup center or power forward. Yeah, being able to play both.
Yeah, I mean, I think as like a third string kind of player for
Yes, that's
both.
that's where we're at with this.
Yeah, Precious. Like
He
there
doesn't
was
need
a
to play
lot of
every night.
there was a lot of buzz for him when he first went to Miami, right? Like people were
Oh,
really
yeah.
excited about him. I wasn't he involved in the trade to the Raptors?
He was. He absolutely was.
And Kyle
Pre
Lowry came to Miami?
Precious Achiuwa was, yeah, I believe that was that trade. So he was part of that. Yep, yeah, or was he part of the Kawhi Leonard deal?
No, I don't think he was part of Kawhi because
Okay.
he was with Miami. And
Okay.
Kyle Lowry went to Miami to play with Jimmy
But
Butler, right?
yeah. So I guess that must have been it. So I'm pulling it up right over here. So Precious Achua was involved in the Kyle Lowry deal. Yep, you are correct. So he was it was him and Goran Dragic for Kyle Lowry.
Goran Dragic. Wow, what a name. Remember the Pacers almost had him?
I do remember that. Yep, that was interesting. I always think when I think of Goran Dragic, I think of that time the Suns ran a 3-point guard lineup, which is a very interesting move and something we have literally not seen since. But yeah, Precious Achua, what are your thoughts on Precious?
Um, don't love him. I
I
love
mean,
playing
nobody
against him.
Yeah, nobody loves him, but the guy does have a rebounding skill. It
Yeah,
is definitely something that he has a skill. He can pull down, 6 boards in his sleep, it feels like. And as a guy that doesn't need to play every night, but could play, could be your emergency, power forward, could be your backup center, could be your third string center. I think it's pretty decent on a minimum contract.
yeah. I mean, it's not the worst. I mean, if you
No.
look at the center players, like the players that are on the center list as well, there's a lot of names. But I mean, if you're trying to give yourself someone that's similar to an Isaiah Jackson, that's kind of got that athletic build, that's a little bit maybe undersized, but can do some things differently, guard different positions, I can see the intrigue. I don't think I'd want to spend my money if I'm the Pacers on Precious Achiuwa. I think there's other options out there for me,
There
but like we said, there's these power forwards. It is slim pickings,
it is.
and I actually had to pull somebody off the small forward list from my power
Mm.
forwards.
What do you got?
Someone you actually had on your list last time. That's going to be up later on my list, but
Okay.
I'll go to my number 4 here, Facci, and this is the only reason I put him on my list. It's not going to happen. I literally wrote in my article for tomorrow, less than 1% chance that this happens. But I couldn't leave him off my list. He's my draft crush from 2022, someone I liked more than Jeremy Sohan. It's Tari Eason.
That
My
is your man.
goodness, this would be a massive addition for the Indiana Pacers. 6'8" with a 7'3" wingspan, guards his butt off, can guard 1 through 5. Did you know that he shoots 56% on corner threes?
I know now.
This guy is one of those players that the Houston Rockets, he's always going to be a part of that identity of what they want to do, but never the main face of
Yeah.
it, obviously. But I think if you were to come to a team like Indiana, this would be a heck of a lot of fun. I would love to see him next to a player like Halliburton with this group. He's clearly a power forward, so there's not going to be a lot of room for him out here on the court unless they're playing him and Obi together off the bench, which honestly, I would much rather do that than do anything that we're seeing with Jay Huff or Micah Potter. But
Yes.
it's not going to happen. I just had to put him number 4 on my list because you know how much I love him. And
You do.
this is a very good player that is a good rebounder. Block shots, steals passes, gets out in transition. The way the Pacers like to play, he fits perfectly. But then again, he's restricted, and I think the Rockets are going to bring him back.
Threw my hands up like this, and I window shopped. I looked through him, and I went, "Oh, man, what if?" But I just knew it wasn't gonna happen. I knew that the money he wouldn't work, the role probably not there. Houston ain't gonna let him go. I think he's got, a club option, I believe it is, or team option. So, I knew it was just yeah. So it's they're opting in. He's a good push. I knew it was very, very complicated, but, yeah, I would love me some Tari Eason. Next on my list, I got another one that's in the same kind of boat as you, but not too unrealistic, but likely not to happen. Kenrich Williams. He could play the 4, he could play the 5. He has a team option at $7.2 million. I know a team that's strapped for cash. That is now the OKC Thunder. They have some decisions to make. Isaiah Hartenstein making about $29 million. They could decline that. That frees up a lot. Then you have your other guys like your Aaron Wiggins and your Kenrich Williams and other players that they could decline those options and make things a little bit easier. Or maybe, honestly, maybe he's just a trade candidate just to, they can flip him for maybe a couple second round picks. I don't think that Indiana should be breaking the bank on him, but I do think if that option got declined and you could sign him for about $5 million or so, I think that he's someone who's a bit versatile, who can shoot the 3. He could rebound. I think he's someone that if you stare at his numbers, you're never going to get the full story because it's a championship caliber team that he's a part of, and he's not going to play a huge role. He played 15 minutes per game last year, averaged about 6.5 points per game, 3.3 boards, shot 47% from 3, 39% from 47% from the field, 39% from 3, and he's consistently shot about 39% from three the last few years. So I do think there's more in the tank, but it would take him having his option not picked up and then having to sign for less.
Yeah, Kenny Hustle's awesome. And
Yep.
from everything I've seen from OKC fans online, it seems like he is likely to stay with the Thunder. So that is why I didn't put him on my list, but I did think about it long and hard
Yeah.
because I've mentioned him as a trade candidate as
Mhm.
well. I think that he could be a trade candidate
Makes more sense
for
that way.
for the Pacers because if they do pick him up, like, okay, could they at least get something out of him, trade him into a team
Sure. They're
that
a very
has that
smart team.
mid-level exception? I mean, that's what
Yes.
OKC does, right?
Literally. They don't let assets walk. They get some sort of draft capital that they end up using in some sort of beneficial way for them. So yeah, trade candidate probably the way to go, but I felt like it wasn't totally unrealistic, but
No.
it was a pipe dream a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's I would say like a 10% chance of
Yeah,
happening,
yeah,
right?
it's
A
it's
little bit
it's
better
slim, but
than
yeah.
mine with Tyrese, and so, no, I think he's a good player. He can play small ball 5 as well,
Yeah.
which makes him intriguing in terms of, like, being able to have a stretch big out there, but, like, he defends his tail off. There's a reason why he's nicknamed Kenny Hustle. Like you mentioned, the three-point shot is a real thing, so there's a lot to be intrigued by there, but at the same time, it's just like,
It's gonna be
where's the
tough to
playing
pull off.
time coming from unless he's playing
Yeah.
small ball 5, right?
And you would think that if he's gonna go somewhere, it's about the opportunity. Like, I do think there's teams that could give him a bigger opportunity, and, like, this is his time to honestly look for the biggest opportunity, maybe even sign, like, that one-year type of deal to have that opportunity to then, leverage the next contract, but we'll see. OKC's got tough decisions to make. He might be one of them, but, who do you got next on your list?
All right, Vachi, number 3 on my list, it is somebody that's currently playing in the NBA Finals right now. It is Harrison
Mm,
Barnes, 34 years
okay,
old.
okay.
I don't really see a world where the Pacers are gonna target Harrison Barnes. If you remember, I think it was about 3 years ago.
I do remember.
I don't remember if it was, like, the Pacers were linked to him. I think they were
They were. It was
a
like the
lot.
start of free agency. It seemed like that might, like, have true legs to it, and that dude got snatched up.
By the Kings, who went back to the
Yep.
Kings for, what was it?
Like, a good amount of money.
$54 million for 3
Yeah.
years is what it
Like,
was.
that was
Well, I mean, at the time, it made sense because Sacramento was playing better, and they had just had that nice little, like, season with De'Aaron Fox and Malik Monk and Sabonis and Barnes, and
it's can I just pause you right there? It's funny when it comes to Sacramento because they had that nice little season. Like, that's the most success they had in the last 20 years. Like, that's a big deal for them, but I'm right there with you. It was that season out of nowhere. They made the mistake of really, it's not really a mistake, it just backfired, of, like, doubling down on that roster. Like, Sabonis gets paid, Harrison Barnes gets paid, like, all those other players, and it just felt like that was it. It was like magic in a bottle that just kind of just it was out like that, and the team was back to being bad again.
yeah, and so, like, part of the reason why I looked at him is because he can play the 3 or the 4. It gives you a little bit of versatility there positionally. I would say that he's probably more a 4 than he is a 3 at this point in his career because I feel like his lateral quickness has slowed down a little bit, but he's still like he was a starter for the Spurs for like 50 some games this year. And then he kind of got put on the bench and rightfully so. I mean, Julian Champagny has been awesome for them. So bring him off the bench, let him kind of figure things out that way. I have no problem with that. I just think that if I'm the Pacers, like, do I look at it, a Harrison Barnes and say this guy is better this next season than a Jarris Walker or a Ben Shepherd? And I can make the case that I think he is, but it doesn't mean that I think he's like drastically better. I think it's very close. And so for me, like, I wouldn't pay him anywhere near close to the full mid level. I don't think he's anywhere like
Oh, no, no, no,
I
no.
said that I said I think somewhere in the $7 to $10 million range makes sense for what he might want. But if I'm the Pacers, I'm thinking more like 6 million or less. I wouldn't pay him that much.
Yeah. So I definitely like Harrison Barnes, and I do have him number 2 on my list.
Okay.
So I have Harrison Barnes there. I've always just, like, felt like he could be a good veteran for this team. Like, I felt like, hey, you know what? Like, I know he actually seems older than he is. Like, I feel like Harrison Barnes, you think of him as, like, this, like, really old player. Like, he just turned 34. He's not young, but he's not, like, turning 37. So I feel like for Harrison Barnes, quietly averaged 9.9 points per game. The Spurs were almost like the first team ever to have, like, I think it was like 7 or 8 guys average double figures. He just missed it, but still a very good player. But I do think that he's probably the odd man out in San Antonio. I think they let him go, and Who knows where he signs with, but he would be a good addition to any team looking to win a championship if the price is right. I do think that when you talk about, money, like, he's got to be a 5 million and under guy at this point. Like, if you want the right role, you got to take a pay cut, and he's made enough money in his time. But that's who I have at number 2. So who do you got at number 2?
Okay, so this is the person that I said I borrowed from the small forward page, but you had on your small forward list, I believe, and that's Jayshawn Tate.
Okay. Oh, there we go. All right. So look, I thought I was coming a little bit out of left field when I had him on there. I mean, I might have mispronounced his name, but I was definitely we're thinking the same thing.
I think mispronouncing names is your specialty.
Some of these names are tough. I got a guy on the center list that is that's a little bit tough.
Wait.
So we'll get to that. Yeah.
I think that guy might be who my number 1 is on the on the power forwards.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because he was on both lists. If you didn't catch that,
yeah, I did. But I guess
we'll talk about it here in a second. But for me, the reason I had Jayshawn Tate is like, look, this guy, he's only 6'4", but he has a 6'9" wingspan, and we've talked about him already, so I don't want to overkill the conversation here with him. But what I like about him is he can play both the 3 and the 4, and I think it just gives you versatility. And you really need someone that's kind of more that third string player that knows their role. Like, they're not going to play a lot. They're going to be a good locker room guy, but when they're called upon, you can rely on them. And he's got really good defensive instincts, is what makes me really intrigued by him as a player. He goes out there and he hustles. Like, I can just imagine the Pacers are not playing good at one point, or maybe Jarris is struggling or something. And Carlisle's like, Jayshawn, get in there and go change the game. And I think he could do that throughout the regular season. It's not going to be something what you want to see it's kind of like the Quentin Jackson effect, where Quentin's not playing a lot, but then all of a sudden you see him get thrown into a game and he comes out there and scores 8 points, and you're like, oh, it gets a steal, gets a fast break dunk, and the whole crowd goes wild. I think Jayshawn Tate has that kind of impact potentially at the 4 spot, or the 3 spot, whatever you want to call it. But he's just, to me, he understands his role. He's lost playing time every single season with the Rockets. He was averaging 29 minutes his first year, and it's dwindled down to just 8 minutes a game now. So this is a guy that clearly understands he's a depth piece in the NBA, and if he wants another contract, it might just make sense to latch onto a team that needs some depth. I don't think the Pacers desperately need for depth, but if they do make a trade and they have some roster spots open, if they did a 3-for-1 or something like that on a minimum deal, Jayshawn Tate would make some sense.
Yeah, no, he would. I'm still a believer. I just think that similar type of situation to Jeremy Sohan, where the guy had a much bigger role, and then both the Rockets and the Spurs were bad for a while, which means that they got great draft picks, and players just came in that with a higher draft stock that just kind of bumped them a little bit down, the rotation. I think that now his role has just dwindled, but I'm still a believer. So now that we talked about this, I wish I would have had a different number 1, but unfortunately I put him under my center, list, because that's what Spot Track had him also as. So a little bit complicated, but we'll get to that another time. Number 1 on my list. I don't think he's on your list. He's not. We'll go with Taurean Prince. So Taurean Prince, yeah, look, he's got that buck stank on him, but what I will say is he is a very good 3-point shooter, a very good 3-point shooter. The last 2 years, he shot 43.6% from 3 and 43.9.
Yeah.
He averaged between 8 to 9 points per game. You could defend, you could do a little bit of everything. You could play him at the 3, you could play him at the 4. I think he's even played some 2 at times I've seen for the Bucks when they
played the 2 for the Bucks.
Yeah, exactly. So it's you want to talk about versatility. This man could play 2 through 4. I really think he can. So I'm a big believer the Pacers need more 3-point shooting, but I also feel that with him, it's a player option for just under $4 million. I just look at the Bucks like the Titanic. I really do think that ship's going down. You got to get out of there. Got to get out. So I think
let me ask you this. Do you really think a team is going to offer Taurean Prince a contract, or do you think he would be better off to pick up his player option?
What? You don't think Taurean Prince is going to get a contract coming off of averaging 9 points per game, shooting 44%?
How many minutes did he play last year?
23 and a half.
How many games?
26.
Out of 82.
The year before they played 80. Yeah, but the year before they played 80. Year before that, he played 78.
He is a shell.
The year before that, he started 73 out of 80 games.
And then he got put on the bench because he was so bad in the playoffs. I'm just saying, Taurean Prince, I'm not trying to hate on Taurean Prince.
I think you're out of your mind if you don't think he's going to get a contract above $4 million. This is a guy the last 2 years.
What's the veteran minimum?
It's probably right around there. I mean, at this point, it's probably I would imagine it's probably about $4 million for where he's at because his
How many years has he
player
played in
option.
the league?
I have to manually count this out. Let's see,
Sorry,
one,
I'm just
2,
curious.
3, 4, 5,
It should just
6,
have your number right there at
7,
the bottom.
8, 9, 10. It depends where you're looking at. I'm on ESPN. 10 years.
Okay. So
So
3.634 is what he can make $1 million wise
okay.
for a
Well,
minimum
if you wanna
contract. What is he
wanna
making
edge,
next year if he picks up the option?
I think it was like 3.9.
So just a little bit more.
Yeah. So
Okay.
so let's
I mean,
see. So
he might opt out because he doesn't want to play
you don't
there. I
want
mean, I'm not saying he won't, but I see a
yeah.
world where he picks it up and
It was
because
3.6. It was $3.6 million for him. Actually, sorry, no, it was 3.8. Yeah, I was right. So
3.8.
yeah,
Okay. Either way, I mean, it's apples and oranges at this point. It's not that much difference in money. I don't know. I think when I think of Taurean Prince, like I feel like he was so bad. Like he shot the ball well, but what else was he doing well? Like defensively, he has totally lost a step. He was out
everybody does
there.
once you're 10 years in the league, but
Yeah.
so do a lot of other guys. I mean, Harrison Barnes and other ones like definitely lost a step.
Oh,
You
trust
know,
me.
yeah,
Trust me. I think I'd rather have Harrison Barnes than Taurean Prince.
I think it would, but I went, Prince a little bit younger.
More
So
affordable,
yeah, more affordable
less
for
interest
sure.
from other teams, probably.
Like Taurean Prince to me, like that's $4 million. Harrison Barnes, like it's probably a little bit more. It could be 5 to 6. It's not like a lot more, but like is Harrison Barnes gonna want such a like reduced role? I don't know. Taurean Prince, I feel like doesn't have like the legs to stand on to say like, hey, he's got to be the 7th or 8th guy.
Right. No. I mean, honestly, like I started laughing because you said I really believe, and you were talking about he needs a fresh start or something like that. But when you said I really believe, I thought you were about to say I really believe in Taurean Prince.
No,
And I
no,
was like,
I'm not. I'm not
what's
backing
happening?
that up. Like, trust me, I left Kyle Anderson off my list. Okay,
Oh wow, that's big.
he was staring at me, and I went, don't do it, Foch, don't." And I went, "People, don't fall into that trap." Then the man's cooked now. But Torian Prince, there's like enough of being a good 3-point shooter that like, hey, he could be a minimum guy for the Pacers.
All right, do you want me to go to my number one, who I think is
Dude,
on your center list?
what do you got? Bring it.
Toronto Raptors.
Absolutely.
6'9", 240 pounds, 52.3% from the field, 38.9% from three, 74.7% from the free throw line. He's somebody I've actually brought up as someone I thought the Pacers should go after before on this podcast, and that is Sandro Mamukelashvili Facci.
Dude,
So
I had
this
to watch a
basketball
video
reference has it
on the
broken up per
you have
syllable.
to.
So his nickname is Mamu. That's what I'm going to call him moving forward. I'm not calling him Sandro or his whole full last name. It's Mamu. And if it's really funny, his full name is actually Alexander Mamu Kalashvili. So I just like him a lot. There is a great video that someone put out on YouTube. If you want to watch it, I'll actually try to provide the link in the description below. But there is a great YouTube video talking about all that he does, but like small ball 5, but also someone that can play the 4. I think he would fit perfectly because he loves to put the ball on the floor. He was drafted by the Pacers, and they traded him when they drafted him to the Bucks. So former Indiana Pacer, technically by the draft rights, and then sent to the Bucks, played with the Spurs, with the Raptors, journeyman. He's going to get paid. Honestly, I've looked at a handful of free agent articles by different teams. I would say that he's been on at least like 80% of the lists that I've seen from other teams. So I would expect him to have a lot of interest from like in terms of the open market because free agency is not that great. And I think this guy is due for a pay raise. Like he could
He
probably
is.
make as much as he's made in his career in his next contract.
I think so. Like, I just when I saw like the career year that he just had, I was like, "Oh man, like
Yeah.
this is great." Anytime you're gonna dive into a YouTube video, you're like, and for the pronunciation, it's like, let me put some respect on his name. So, I definitely feel like this would be an awesome addition for the Pacers. But yeah, it's not gonna be on a cheap minimum deal. He's gonna have suitors. He deserves to have it. Honestly, at this point, I really think he goes to the highest bidder. I think this is like that point in his career where it's like you got to cash in. I think he's like 27, 28 years old, somewhere around there. So it's like this is really like your prime. So probably going to be outbid by other teams. But I have him foreshadowing on my center list, but I wish I would have had him on my power forward list.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think the Taurean Prince conversation was good entertainment for our listeners. So hopefully they enjoyed the little back and forth there between me and you arguing about randomly Taurean Prince.
Look,
It
yeah, I
wouldn't be
mean
a pod.
that's
We haven't argued in a while. We've been pretty
we
nice to
haven't.
each other.
Yeah, I will say that. But this is where we're at in June when there's no NBA Finals. A year ago, we're talking about winning it all. This time around, we're talking about is Taurean Prince worth the minimum? Like it's just, like that is how much things could change in one calendar year.
Okay, so I would say out of the 4 positions that we have gone through player-wise, this is the worst one.
Yes, I would say so. Point guards was pretty rough. I do think that I don't want to call power forwards a bunch of has-beens, but I do feel like this is a bunch of guys that are getting closer to the end of their career or are for the most part minimum guys. Like we have the pipe dreams versus they're on their last legs minimum type of players in this list.
Yeah, and so what I'll say too is just for point guards, if we didn't already have so many point guards on the roster, we probably would have looked at a bit bigger names. And someone's like, "Why didn't you guys bring Kobe White up?" And I'm like, that's a good point. Because I was looking at guys on that minimum contract level because I don't think the Pacers are going to go out there and spend a lot of money on the point guard spot. But Kobe White was listed as a point guard, could play some too. So there's obviously some intrigue there. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. We'll be back tomorrow to close things out, talking about the centers. And Facci was foreshadowing, look, I didn't have Sandro on my list, Mamu on my list for the centers, and I've got 5 names plus 3 honorable mentions to bring up on the centers list. So there's a lot of names out there for the centers that make some sense if the Pacers do want to kind of shake up their depth a little bit with the Jay Huffs and the Micah Potters, throw some competition in there at the training camp. So we'll dive into all that tomorrow, but anything else you want to say before we sign off, Platch?
No, I would just say thank God the Pacers don't need a power forward. I think this very much helps to not be shaking the cup, being like, who can we get for on a minimum contract? Please come to Indiana. It's more like, hey, if you get one of these players, they could play multiple positions, but it's not something that any of us are going to be mad about if they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, Facci. Well, if you're hoping the Pacers spend their money more wisely than going after a power forward of free agency, please hit me with those 3 words.
Let's go, Pacers.